The Pilot Capless or Vanishing Point is one of the more unique pens in my collection. First of all, you have the shape, which is unlike any of the other pens because obviously it doesn't have a cap. Rather, it has a push mechanism, spring-loaded one, and it has an auto-retractable door at the end where the nib would kind of peep out. The other thing that makes it unique is that the clip of the pen is actually on the other side. You would expect for a typical pen that the clip would be on the back of the hand rather than in front. Another unique point about the Capless or Vanishing Point is it is a very long pen. If those of you who've been watching my videos would know that I prefer pens that are slightly longer or girthier. This pen, when kind of held in the hand, it's about 14 centimeters from the tip of the nib all the way to the back, which makes it one of the longest pens that I have in my collection that's unposted length. So 14 centimeters translates to roughly 5.6 inches. It also is kind of girthy, right? So basically, at the point, at the area of the pen where you hold it, it's actually rather broad or wide at around 11 millimeters. Another interesting thing about this pen is the fact that Pilot didn't give it a number like 74 or something like that. It gave it a name. In Western markets, it's called the Vanishing Point. In Japan, it's called the Capless. It isn't, however, the only capless pen out there in the market. Pilot themselves have several other models, or at least two other models that I'm aware of that are capless. One of them is the Decimal, and the other one is, if I'm not wrong, it's the Thermal that has the twist mechanism. They also have a different version of the capless called the Capless LS, which is a rather luxury version of this particular pen. One other thing about this pen that makes it unique is actually the weight. It is probably one of the heaviest pens in my collection, primarily because the whole body of the pen is made of, I assume, brass or some sort of metal alloy, right? So lots of distinctions. Let's take a look at the pen itself. First of all, before I go into that, it came in obviously a very I bought two of them, as you can see. Story about it is that I bought this as my first Capless or Vanishing Point, and I was so disappointed. That's probably another distinction that Pilot has, this particular pen rather has. I was so disappointed in the way that the nib performed, which I'll show you later on. This is an extra fine that I told myself, this couldn't be the experience that everyone got, which is why I got the second one. I got this one second hand. This is the Stealth model. So the first one I actually bought brand new, and it came in a box like this. As you could probably tell, this is probably bought from a Western market, which is why it says Vanishing Point fountain pen, black, extra fine. And it came in like a clamshell box with a plastic cover. Inside, for the longest time, I didn't even know there was a kind of an inner piece down here. Maybe you don't know yourself. And since I have two pens, I actually have two of these. These are actually the covers or the kind of protective sleeves that you put on a normal Pilot cartridge, so that the plunger mechanism or the mechanism for the to actuate the pen won't damage the cartridge, which I'll show you later on. It comes with a warranty probably, and a manual and how to take care of the pen. One thing to note, if you buy the pen from like a Japanese market, it will come with a little tag which they usually attach at the clip area, and this one in the Japanese market it will be called the Capless. Sorry, in both markets basically they call it the Capless. This is the extra fine, and this is the the one from Japan. It is probably an older pen, which is why the label kind of shows different things there. So I'll just put this aside. And if you look at the pen itself, I'm just going to choose this one because it kind of stands out better against this black background. Basically, you have the clip, right, which is reminiscent to me of the clip from the Metropolitan, except that it has a little cutout down here, which kind of helps when you're holding it. However, I'll show you how I hold this particular pen later on, which makes this clip kind of irrelevant. Some people find it uncomfortable to hold the pen like this, and I'll show you my way. It comes with that little door which I mentioned earlier on. It's a rubberized door, which means that when the nib is kind of hiding inside, it will be more or less sealed from the outside world. Looking at the rest of the pen, this is the kind of the black. Obviously, it has two little rings down here, and it says Pilot Japan. It has that plunger or that actuating mechanism down here, and then when you open up the pen, you get this part of the pen, which is this. If you look closely, you can see this is how the mechanism works. So this is the part that actually pushes this. In this case, it's actually a Con 40, which came with the pen, and once you push it, it will kind of pop out up here. Right. So that's how it works. It's a very kind of a basic mechanism. I mean, any ballpoint pen that you get out there, a G2 would have pretty much the same way of actuating. And inside, I'm not going to go inside first. So basically, the other part of the pen, it's also metal threads down here. You'll notice that it has a little groove. So when the nib unit goes in, it can only go in this way because the nib unit also has this little nubbin down here. It can't go in any other way, right? Which is if you can imagine, if you go in the wrong way, the nib unit will not be able to kind of pass through that little door. So looking at the nib unit itself, obviously you have the Con 40, which you can remove. And my rather inky nib unit down here, that's where the actual nib resides. So this is the Pilot 18 karat 750 actually denotes the percentage of gold in the nib, which is about 75% if I'm not wrong. And it says down here, I cannot really make it out, but I think it's the Namiki symbol. It says also 319. So the nib itself is really tiny. The underside of the nib looks like this. As you can see, it's really inky. I have this inked up with Yama Budo, which explains that shade of color. And I'm trying to get my pen to focus, but you'll notice that for an extra fine, it is extremely fine. I mean, it's like a needle point, right? So if you use this pen, if I use this pen on anything less than very good quality fountain pen paper, it would kind of tear up the paper and then cause like paper bits to kind of get stuck in the tines. So reassembling the pen, I'll let you take a look at the matte one. I prefer the matte one way more. Firstly, and another point to be noted, this pen comes in many finishes, including, like, the super expensive Raden finishes, different colors and so on. It probably has one of the biggest lineup of colors and finishes in the Pilot line. I like the matte one because it feels very nice. It's matte, obviously. In fact, the matte one felt so nice that it was one of the pens that inspired me to start writing immediately when I got it, and I actually used it immediately to write like the famous letter that Abraham Lincoln, or rather his assistant, wrote to Mrs. Bixby. Just show you a sample of that particular pen's nib. So that one is the Capless in fine, and I have it inked in Waterman Mysterious Blue. So looking at the two pens and how they write, I'm going to start with this one since it's already uncapped, and just going to, so as you can see, I've been leaving it outside for a while and it's kind of dried out. I'm just going to restart it, and it's an incredibly sharp point, right? So I can feel lots and lots of feedback as I use it. You might even be able to pick out the sound of the nib. So very scratchy, but very fine. I mean, there are little bits of paper stuck in the nib already as I'm writing. So surprisingly, for this type of pen, I'm just going to bring it up. You would think that this type of pen will not, be very soft, but it's actually pretty soft, right? So variation wise, you can press to kind of make the lines, have a little bit of variation if you're up for it. However, not Pilot's kind of best effort nib wise, in my opinion. So looking at the other pen, which is the fine, it's kind of like a different nib in many cases, right? So basically, if I write the same thing again, this nib is actually pretty wet, right? And as you can see, the line that comes out is very dark. It's very soft and it's relatively smooth, right? And I'll just draw some lines down here to show you. So compared to the other pen, this is like night and day for me. I mean, we all know that there's variation in nibs, but this pen probably is one of my favorites, precisely because of how it feels, the length aspect and all that, and then the way it writes. So that kind of concludes my review or quick look at the Pilot Vanishing Point. In conclusion, I'm just going to put it this way. In conclusion, would I buy this pen, or would I, if I lost it or it was damaged or anything like that? I think I definitely would, especially this particular finish and this particular nib. Hopefully I get one that is as smooth as this one. And I think, you know, most people out there would, you know, kind of do worse by picking, you know, I mean, not do worse, but they can definitely, you know, choose this as their first gold nibbed pen. This pen actually costs around that 150. I didn't really look at the actual price, but it probably costs about 150 US dollars. And it's pretty, you know, I think it's fair for the price that you pay to get a pen of this type of quality that you'll probably enjoy for, you know, quite some time, right? So again, thanks so much for watching today. I hope you liked the video today, and please let me know your comments, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.